Fidelli from the province called me and said, "What's your favorite saying?" And I said, "Yes is the answer." He says, "Well, I think later today you're going to hear that from a company in Germany." And I said, "Well, that's just perfect." He said, "But don't say anything now. We've got a bit of an embargo until Volkswagen makes its announcement." And Volkswagen was very much on time and made their announcement. And then our very good day started. I'd like to introduce certainly the Council of the City of St. Thomas. None of this work would have happened without its great guidance and the thoughts from them. This is, as I said, this is about as good as it gets, and I'm really pleased to have two great friends with us today, too. Rob Flack, the Member of Provincial Parliament, and Karen Vecchio, who was already here visiting me today, early before all this, as our Member of Parliament. This is exactly what you see, and is exactly what has happened. The federal government, the provincial government, and the municipality and its great workforce is what caused us to be able to win this decision from Volkswagen. This is the largest automotive facility ever in Canada, coming to St. Thomas, Ontario. I'm not sure it gets any better than that. But I really want to also personally point out Sandra, our city manager, Sean Dyke, certainly from economic development and the Economic Development Corporation for the City of St. Thomas, and that chair, Robert Furneaux, is here today too, and a few other members. Deals like this, land deals and business deals, don't happen without economic development. It's kind of steering the vehicle, pardon the pun, or excuse the pun, in the right direction. It just is. We have secured, and I mean the collective we, the folks in the gallery, the members of staff. I see Justin and Mike and our fire chief and Chamber of Commerce chair. It is a collective effort when something like this comes together for a community like ours. St. Thomas has secured its future today. St. Thomas doesn't have to look backwards again. I know I'll turn to my friend Steve and say, boy, we've both been smiling pretty good today, but there was a whole group of people sometime in the 1800s when two railways decided they would come through St. Thomas and said, wow, the biggest thing that ever happened. Right? And then other times in the mid-1900s with whether Ford coming to Talbotville or Format, Prestran, Freightliner coming to St. Thomas. Great big days securing our future. Well, Volkswagen added to it today. Another day we will remember when it first came. I'd like to thank the provincial government most and first. Without the provincial government's help and on us deciding we should move forward on this big of a project, we wouldn't have done it. I know the federal minister for investment has also had a lot to do with it too. I spoke to both Minister Fidelli today and the Premier today, and I'll be nice and say they were almost giddy. I mean, it really was. It is that big of a day for the province of Ontario, for the workers of Ontario, and for towns in our region, in St. Thomas and Central Elgin and London. We will benefit for years from this. I'm going to stop there. I've got both of my compadres here with me today, and Sean Dyke is here also, can answer some of the more technical questions. But I'd love to hear your questions and let us brag a little bit more about St. Thomas. Who's got a question? Okay, great. We'll do council. Daryl?
Can you speak to us a little bit about the scale of this project? You say it's the biggest. Explain to us by what metrics is it the biggest, and if you can give us some insight on possible job creation.
Okay, first of all, I'll share that it is a 1,500-acre site that will not be all taken up by a Volkswagen plant, but once that plant is completed, we'll be able to do some other things with the rest of the site, but couldn't do it couldn't do any of them without first accumulating all of that. We started at least a year ago, starting to purchase land and add it to St. Thomas's already fairly large industrial area in the northeast. And we're able to complete most of that just through happy negotiating. There's a lot of people who own land in that area that now smile a lot too, because they did very well also. And the city of St. Thomas ended up with a very large industrial park with which we could build a facility that is world size. So that's the best I can share with you. I know that technically as we start through clearing the land and construction, we'll get into how many square meters and those types of things. It is mammoth. And it is a mammoth amount of jobs coming to St. Thomas and a mammoth amount of economic future for us. Rob, did you want to add to that one?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think it is a historic day. I think it's a game changer, and I think it's generational. You talk about the railways. It was generational in terms of change and what it brought for economic development. But I'd also speak to St. Thomas, absolutely. Elgin County, London, Middlesex County, and surrounding communities. This is a game changer. It's going to be economic development, number one. Number two, they're going to be sustainable jobs. And I want to also point out that I think it really ties in nicely for what Canada's dream is. Think of the Ring of Fire. Think of the critical minerals we produce in this province. They're going to come down and downstream economically benefit this EV plant. We're going to be made in Canada solutions. We're not just going to ship our natural resources elsewhere. We're going to make jobs. We're going to make batteries. We're going to make jobs. We're going to create a long-term economy. So I'm excited for St. Thomas, Elgin County, and all surrounding communities, in fact, southwestern Ontario.
Thank you. Anything? Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Well, we're going to let Volkswagen announce how much it took for them to come. As I said, we had great partners in the provincial government and the federal government in making this happen. St. Thomas ended up being the owner of all of that property. As I said, we're going to let the buyer of the property decide what they want to say about the price of the property and how it went. Yeah, Ian.
How many other communities, states, whatever, were in the running for this? I heard Oklahoma.
Yeah. You know, whenever you're in a big negotiation like this, and this plant will only go one place in the world, and we were in the running for it. We heard a lot of other places that had potential. The other thing we heard was 3 or 4 other very large industries that would also like to do this, and if not here, they may go to one of the other places we were hearing also. But to be chosen number one by a company as large as Volkswagen to say, yes, but St. Thomas wooed us. St. Thomas said the right things and got it done, and the staff here and the council here did the job it was supposed to do to represent St. Thomas, to make a company from halfway around the world decide this is where they're going to build the biggest thing they've ever built. So, yeah. Yeah.
So Ian, specifically talking to the Premier this morning, we're in competition with 90 sites globally. It came down to 40 sites in the US, and frankly, I think we won because of a lot of great reasons. Critical minerals being one, clean energy being 2, skilled labor being 3, geographical location, but it was an intense, I can promise you this, an intense competition. So kudos to council, to mayor, to all stakeholders and governments, the staff up there. To win this is an amazing accomplishment and no small feat indeed.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Mayor. Maybe you could describe what recent years have been like for the community that's been working in the automotive sector here prior to this announcement.
Prior to this deal, how many jobs, automotive jobs?
Or sort of what the automotive sector has been like.
Yeah. Sean, do you want to help me with that? What is the automotive? I would say 3/4 of our current jobs in the city of St. Thomas in large industrial plants would be automotive-based or automotive supply. This will really add to that, but in a completely different way. Automotive in St. Thomas has become diversified while still being in the automotive industry. Whether it's now a huge battery plant, we don't currently have that, or parts plants like Magna, Prestran, and Format, and I guess Masco is a very large employer in our community now too, but not so much automotive, but a little sprinkling of it there too. So this will make us automotive being back to being the number one for sure, but with enough diversification in what we're supplying. Anything on? Joe?
Did you meet with the other mayors and political officials around here today?
I immediately, between my original notification this morning and before it was 100% public news out there, talked to Mayor Sloan from Central Elgin and Mayor Ketchup from Bayham, the warden of Elgin County. I'll let you know, they were both smiling pretty good today too. This is a good news. I also called Josh Morgan, the mayor of London. And we wanted to have that conversation too. We had talked a lot over the last couple of weeks about, if this comes, how do we work together? The London Economic Development Corporation has been a big help to this region, and we want to say this is about a regional win. This is the biggest automotive facility in Canada's history. There's enough for us to share, and London will gladly be able to help us with this too.
The biggest Volkswagen plant, period, comment?
That one you'd have to ask Volkswagen.
No, I thought you said that it was the biggest they've ever built. Kind of.
Well, we don't have another Volkswagen plant in Canada, so yes, right. But it is the largest automotive industrial complex in Canada's history. Will be coming on the north part of St. Thomas. That is. You kind of got to go drive out all four corners of that site and go, wow, if it goes to any two corners, that's a pretty big building. Let's see how that goes. Karen?
Well, I'm very grateful to be here today as this incredible announcement comes forward, because we have gone through the economic downturn of 2010 where we did lose some jobs. And as you were talking about that, we have seen Sterling leave. We have seen Ford leave. But the wonderful thing is that we have great opportunities here and the workforce as well. The impact to this community is going to be phenomenal. Those jobs that people are looking for to pay for everything today, to buy that new home, to be able to have a sustainable job and look at your future. I'm so proud of what this council has done. I know it takes a lot of great leadership, so I would really like to say thank you to Joe and to all of the council members for bringing this forward. This is a team effort, and working with everybody to bring these jobs, to bring the opportunities and hope back to our community is very, very important. So thank you.
Well, if I can share, this group of three gets along extremely well and is not bad at asking each other for help on problems and suggestions and how to move forward. Karen was here for her regular visit this morning. When she left my office is when Minister Fedeli called me to say I was going to get an announcement, and I went, Karen, come back, but she had already left, so I've been, but this is perhaps strange compared to other places in our province, in our country, but all three of us get along really well from both a familiar and an operational point of view. And we try to stay in each of our own lanes. We know what the municipality is responsible for, and so I'm often going to Rob for answers on things that the municipality should do. Because Karen and I worked together for so long, I'd never don't just call her and just say, here's what we're doing. What are you thinking? And she gives us her opinion too. So it's quite a good team. Further questions? Oh, I thought that was a fancy way of bidding. Yes, okay, I saw your bid. Yes. Yeah. It really felt like that today. We were so busy we got to have pizza for lunch too, so it was really quite a fun thing. Joe?
Are there any commitments that the VW has made? I
Right.
in terms of economic development. Is there anything, you know, providing a park or building a stadium or
Yeah.
housing?
I think we're just a day early on that type of looking. Volkswagen was looking around the world for its absolute best site to do an industrial piece. They've made that decision. I think now we build the relationships and the friendships over the next year as we clear the land and start the construction for Volkswagen. And I think we'll find we're pretty good friends. People don't make this size of investment in our community, and this community doesn't make the type of commitment it's making to Volkswagen without being prepared to work on as being friends too.
And I guess it's going to be, you said that a lot of the practicals of logistics is, there's still issues that'll come through council and be vetted in council.
Well, there will need to be a number of those things. We've talked today's announcement calls for a plant opening of 2027. So between 2023 and 2027, we've got a lot of work and building to do, whether it's logistics on roads or access or other we know that we have the services that are needed in that area for that need, for the size of plant that Volkswagen is talking about. We know we can do it. Now we have to learn, can we do it within the time frame we've set for ourselves? We believe we can. Yes is the answer. We can do it. So we don't go make billion-dollar deals like this without being a little bit honest on our side. But in our meetings with Volkswagen and the staff's meeting with their staff, they were convinced that St. Thomas was telling them the truth, and they said, we can do all of these things. We can supply the land and we can make it work. You don't always trust who you're negotiating with. This was a case of sure did, because they called this morning and said yes. So. Further questions? Yeah.
I sort of want to recap what this means specifically for the community and what this means for the people of St. Thomas and the surrounding areas, you know, and not just in terms of jobs, but, you know, like as a whole.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about what it means to St. Thomas and the surrounding area, and I'll come up near my two good friends because they're going to all want a little piece of this too. Look, this means, as you said, yeah, it means a bunch of jobs, and a bunch of very good jobs, high-tech jobs, good paid jobs. Those are a given. We wouldn't have tried to attract this company here without that. But it also means a quality of life, a growing quality of life in St. Thomas that we weren't yet able to say we could do. St. Thomas has been growing, and Elgin County and the rest of our area has been growing significantly. We now know that there's a huge piece, a huge insurance policy to that growth there. I think that you probably had a number of home developers, commercial builders, all meeting today with their staff saying, this is huge. What do we got going on in St. Thomas, and what do we do about it? So I think that's right. Rob also mentioned the good it covers for almost all of Ontario. First of all, other plants or feeder plants for the Volkswagen plant will certainly come here or near here. That's a great thing, and subsequent jobs there. But the ring of fire, or the minerals needed to be an EV battery plant, are available close to home. They are available around the world in some pretty unsafe countries, and some countries with a little less civil rights activism than us. So it's great to see. But I'm going to hand it over to Karen and then Rob on that same question.
Well, thanks very much for the question. I think as you're looking at it, when you look at a community getting a tax base like this, getting opportunities for the community, it just continues to grow. Everything from simple to the sidewalks that you're walking down the streets. We just saw that today in a smaller municipality. When the tax base isn't huge, you don't get those opportunities for all those projects. You have to choose your priorities. This gives the city of St. Thomas and the entire region something to not only say we've got more than one priority, but to able to move forward together. And this is something that I think is really, really positive. There'll be so many opportunities, not just for the people that live here, but the people that want to move here too. This is just going to continue to grow and continue to be success.
Thanks, Karen. I agree totally. Two things I would say. First of all, when you think of the tertiary jobs or the spin-off that's going to come from this type of facility, this type of investment. I don't know what the number is, Mayor, but I think it's safe to say that it's significantly in terms of multiple times the jobs that are going to come. So that's going to be great, Karen, for, as you just said, for economic development, for the quality of life. Secondly, the reality is, folks, is 2 to 3 million more people are coming to this province in the next 10 years. And I can guarantee you that we're going to get our fair share of them in southwestern Ontario, in St. Thomas and Elgin County. For that matter, London and surrounding communities. And what's great is we're going to have good paying jobs here, sustainable jobs. And I still always say the best social program in the world is a good paying sustainable job, and that's exactly what this is going to do.
Great. I'll take one more. Joe?
Would you go as far as say that this would resuscitate the housing market?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Resuscitate is the word that the housing market in St. Thomas needed. But this will certainly skyrocket it. It is, look, we recognize we've just tied into a very large employer. Now, it might be 2027 before the plant is finished, but there'll be 1,000 people working on that construction site. There'll be 800 people, we understand, installing equipment in that site. Look, we don't even, and as we just mentioned, there's other plants that could easily come here. Yeah, I think our fantastic home builders, who it was, trust me, Joe, it was very hard to wipe the smiles off their face anyway, and new ones from in our area that want to come here and build some higher density houses and some apartments are all talking about us today. And tomorrow my phone will continue to ring with, can we meet? What do you want to do next? And I'll say yes. Yes is the answer. Now how do we work? How do we make it happen for St. Thomas? I want to thank you all for coming out. This has been great. We haven't had a good news press conference in. Yeah. Nobody remembers the last one. We didn't write it down properly. So, but this is incredible. And over the next week, I think we'll continue to share with you all we can about what's new, what's great, and how fast can we go. And I count on the great staff at the City of St. Thomas being able to meet every timeline that we're asked of. So we will. Thanks.